Ubisoft has been going through some rough times lately. They lost over 159 million euros in their previous fiscal year. Their stocks have been tanking since as far back as last year. They've had some layoffs, including some more recently. Star Wars Outlaws was a big flop last year, and they shut down X-Defiant after that game failed to take off. Assassin's Creed Shadows was supposed to save the company, but that game attracted controversy well before its release, and so far, it hasn't delivered the sales that Ubisoft needs to save the company. There are even rumors of them being bought out by Tencent soon. Might as well change their name to Chinasoft if that happens. Plus, their reputation has been in the toilet for a long time. They're a company that hates consumers, forcing always online DRM and mandatory accounts, as well as peddling the same old open world formula that they've been pushing since Generation 7. Even Rainbow Six Siege isn't nearly as hot as it used to be. A lot of the more ordinary gamers that I know in real life hate Ubisoft outside of maybe the Assassin's Creed games. But at this point, with all of the trouble Ubisoft has had, you'd think they learn a thing or two by now and start doing some things differently, right? Wrong! And a great example of this has to be the quiet re-release of Splinter Cell Pandora Tomorrow on Steam. This came out back in October. So this game is over 20 years old at this point. But Ubisoft has decided to require players to create a Ubisoft Connect account, which many of you know better as Uplay, and sign into in order to play. DRM on a game that's over 20 years old that did not require such an account when it was originally released. That makes a lot of sense, right? Are they really worried about this game getting pirated after all this time? What an insult to our intelligence. But wait, it gets worse. They didn't even bother to make this game work well on modern Windows. If they had the time to implement some lousy DRM scheme, you'd think they would at least provide some widescreen resolution options, like 1080p, at the very least, and maybe patch it to run a little bit better on modern CPUs, but nope. It does have a fix for some issues with shadows that were present in the original PC release, but that's it. You'll have to get a mod for this game after installing it in order to have an optimal experience. They also got rid of the multiplayer mode as well. Now, when this release first dropped, it got quite a few negative reviews, and rightfully so. Just about all of those negative reviews pointed out the absurdity of Ubisoft requiring a Ubisoft Connect account to play this game, this 20-year-old game we're talking about here. Some of them also pointed out the laziness of this re-release, like I just pointed out earlier. These people are right on the money. In an ideal world, the account requirement would be a no-go for everyone, and the laziness on top of that would just be more insult to injury. However, there was an influx of positive reviews that poured in as well. Now, some of this is obviously going to be the remaining fanboys that Splinter Cell and Ubisoft have. Some people are desperate for nostalgia and won't even mention the obvious problem when they go to review the game. But there was one review in particular that just referred to the DRM problem as a minor inconvenience. And that one really got on my nerves. This shows you how the gaming industry has successfully conditioned a large chunk of the audience to accept DRM. No, dude, you're part of the reason why we get this garbage, because a lot of you just accept it. This company is forcing you to create an account that you don't want in order to play a game that did not require it when it first came out in 2004. You already have a Steam account. That should be more than good enough in this situation. There was another review that said this requirement has nothing to do with the actual experience, and oddly still gave it a thumbs up even after suffering enough crashes to not be able to complete the game. In what world does that make any sense whatsoever? Honestly, one of the dumbest reviews I've read in a long time for any game. Maybe this person should go write for IGN, I don't know. Now, the division between gamers on Steam is a bit disappointing because I think everybody should be against Ubisoft Connect. There should be no tolerance for such lousy DRM schemes. But the one thing that I still don't get is the inconsistency from Ubisoft here when it comes to implementing DRM on these old Splinter Cell games. The first game can be acquired from good old games without any DRM at all. I started playing it recently and it runs just fine, even runs in 1080p. I also have Chaos Theory, the follow-up to Pandora Tomorrow in my Steam library, and that game does not require a Ubisoft account either. How does that make any sense? Why is Pandora Tomorrow the odd one out? Ideally, none of these games should have that stupid requirement, but if they're gonna push this obnoxious scheme, you'd think they'd be more consistent about it, but nope, that's not the case here. Plus, wouldn't they be better off remastering all 3 games at this point? It's a franchise that they haven't done a whole lot with in recent years, and the first 3 games are pretty well regarded. This could have been an easy win for the company, but then again, this company is really good at snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. Maybe I shouldn't wish for that, so you can scratch that idea, because modern Ubisoft would probably screw it up. But at the end of the day, why did they make this move? Obviously it's annoying and intrusive, but why did they do it? There has to be a reason. I don't think it's piracy, because pirated copies have probably been online for a while now. It is an older game. I'm not sure why they made this move, but my best theory is that the company wants to add more people to their mailing list. All of these big AAA companies have an email list, and Ubisoft is desperate to reach gamers any way they can right now. Of course, it's very easy to opt out of these and block them, but they're probably hoping that a lot of the people who are forced to make these accounts with them don't do that. They need to spread the word about their new games more than ever before, and this is a very small way to do so. It's obviously not a good justification to screw over customers, but I think it's the only one that really makes any kind of sense. And I'm really grasping at straws here, but that's the only thing I could think of. So anyways, Ubisoft has learned absolutely nothing. They just proved once again why they are one of the worst companies in all of gaming. Don't buy any game of theirs that requires Ubisoft Connect, and if you're going to buy one of their older games on PC, buy it off of Good Old Games, so you can at least get a DRM-free download. But let me know what your experiences are like with Ubisoft's DRM schemes over the years. Are you surprised they did this? Do you think Ubisoft is going to get bought out soon? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon.